Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about two books. One is Down the Rabbit Hole, and the other is Our Lady of the Assassins. Both of them are kind of called the novelists, and they are. I think they both have some interesting points about the contradiction between normal and abnormal stuff. And title of my presentations is called Interspecies Killing and Empathy. My focus questions is about because in both novels the authors has shown that people killing each other is very common in both cultures. In contrast, make the death of animals looks uncommon, like the killing of the wounded dog in Our Lady of Assassins, and the executions of the hippos and the lovebird in Down the Rabbit Hole. So the protagonists in both novels show larger empathy against the execution of the animal rather than the death of human. So to what extent does the abnormal interspecies empathy help showing the absurdness of the circumstance and the mind of the character? So my thesis is the execution of the wanted dog shows the abnormal empathy of Alexis under the abnormal circumstance, where and the death of animals in Down the Rabbit Hole is a fairy tale-ish representation of how Toshli gradually understand killing and death. So in Our Lady of Assassins, I showed two posts showing how the normal status of Alexis and the status of he speculating the executions. Before Alexis and Fernando sold the wanted dog, Alexis killed people on order. When Fernando is annoyed by the punkers and says he wants to kill him jokingly, Alexis killed the punker as soon as they met him on the street without hesitation. Killing people seems easy and normal for Alexis. However, when Fernando ordered Alexis to relieve the dog by shooting it dead, Alexis refused twice and had tears in eyes when he tried to save Fernando. This reveals that Alexis has some abnormal empathy on animals that usually should appear on other humans. This is important to show that Alexis is a boy that grew up under order of assassination, however, does not make him become a completely cold-blooded assassin. The soft part of his heart is shown by his empathy and panic on executing this wanted dog. This makes it more sarcastic that Medellin had become the place that a dog deserved more empathy than a normal human being. And here is two quotes about for the normal status and speculating executions of Toshli in Down the Rabbit Hole. In Down the Rabbit Hole, before seeing the executions of Liberian pygmy hippopotamus, Toshli can narrate how to kill people efficiently, either by bullets or guillotines, like telling others he had learned from the teachers today, and even laugh at the guy who wets his pants before turning into a corpse. When they have to execute the hippos, totally disobeyed Yakult and instead insisted to stay. However, he soon regretted and wet his own pants. This is the first time Toshli closely get in touch with death without the protection of his father Yakult, as he only knows death from TV and stories before. His reaction might be caused by his affection on the hippo. Toshli wanted the hippo so much, and he repeated it several times. He even named two hippos. As a result, make it more shocking to see the executions of the animal that he loved more than some completely strangers. After the executions for uh, for Axis, he faced his own, as soon met his own executions by other assassins in Medellin. Totally experienced his first killing of the lovebird with his own hand. After that, when he received the box with the stuffed heads of the hippo, he shows strong interest on hanging it up in his bedroom with his father, as the quote shows. So, what makes us feel weird? Since both boys are so familiar with death and their circumstance, but why they both get shocked strongly when they see the executions of the animals. So, for Tosley and Alexis, I think both of them are normal kid in an abnormal circumstance. Like they show empathy to things that they care, like the dog and the hippo. But abnormal circumstance is that the death of human is way more common than the animals. Normally, we think animal lives are less important than human lives because we have empathy on strangers within the same species. But what makes them abnormal is the circumstance that humans die more common than animals. So, the book title Down the Rabbit Hole reminds us of the old fairy tale Alice in the Wonderland, where that's about abnormal and normal stuff is combined. When Mazatin fled away from Yoko's palace, he published an article reviewing the mysteries of the palace and named it Down the King's Rabbit Hole. We can see the author intentionally make Mazatin have an article with a similar title with the book, so that the readers will start reflecting similar characteristics in the novel. For example, the author included the glossary in the end, revealing the animals that each character's name symbolized, like Toshli means rabbit, Yokol means rattlesnake, Mazatin means deer. For each of the most of the character, we can find a similar character in Alice in Wonderland, but not for Mazatin as a deer, which shows he is an outsider trying to assimilate into this group, so that he can so he can collect the data, collect some resource that he experienced in this palace and publish them. Also, it is the name of the Aztec's national leader, so he might also symbolize the rebellion of the Mexican natives. When they changed into gringo names, it symbolized a shifting to another reference, the French kings. So when we see these two names, Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, it is obvious to predict their ends when we relate back to what Tocqueville say over and over again about the French kings. And it turned out both of them become staff head and get hung up in Tocqueville's bedroom. Totally have overcome the horror when something cares was killed, like the hippopotamus. Now we reconsider the killing of the lovebird by Totally. Yoko decided to share the secret room with Totally after she realized Totally had stolen a mini pistol from the room and killed the bird without panic, like what happened before during the executions of the hippo. When he watched the samurai movie with Toshli, that the samurai cut off his best friend's head to keep his honor, he told Toshli that one day he will have to do the same for him. I boldly conclude that Hippo represents Yoko as Toshli's father, that he cares a lot. Yoko knows Toshli is no longer an obeying kid, as he steals and kills. kills the lovebird in the cage, as Toshli no longer fears the hippo head and hangs them on the wall of his bedroom. He is prepared with the thing that Yoko think might happen on them. So as a fairy tale, animals always represent people. So I think killing animals can be a representation of Toshli killing people. So getting to the conclusion that in Our Lady of the Assassins, the resistance of killing the dog shows the purity of Alexis, that he kills people on order and gets used to it. Killing a dog is not an option and makes him feel empathy for the dogs. And that reveals an abnormal and sarcastic status that a dog deserves more empathy than a man. And in Down the Rabbit Hole, the regretness of Toshli to see the execution of the hippo show his refuse on the death of the thing he cared most. But he gradually becomes more mature by killing in a fairy tale-ish way. At the end, hanging up the stuffed hippo head is the representation that he is prepared for the accident on the thing or people he cared most. At the end, I want to say both of the books is very good to read because I always feel that kind of weird feeling that they are uh, trying to show that people will get killed so easily. So that reminds me of thinking about how animal is important in these two books. And the most important one is in Down the Rabbit Hole because as soon as we see the title of the book, we can remind about Alice in Wonderland, which I think is kind of a reference uh, because the author used a kind of young voice as a narrator in the book, so it gave us a strong contradiction between how he is talking about some series and death killing in Mexico, but in a very young child voice. So I think this contradiction is very uh, fascinating and attractive. So I recommend you to read this book. Thank you.